Hey guys, welcome back to Melanated Truth. I am Lavonda Handy, licensed marriage and family therapist and Truth Center for Health and Healing. And of course, we have here Nicola Pierre Smith, LPC of Melanated Women's Health. Hello, how are you, Nicola?
I am doing well.
We're continuing to talk about anxiety and depression during this holiday season, during this trying year. And we want to get you guys some coping skills to actually work through this. So last week we gave you the 101s and letting you know like what does it look like and when you need to reach out for help. This week we're going to give you some concrete things that you can actually do to cope with it and continue to support yourself however you need. Anything else you want to add?
Well, I mean, this year there's so much you can pick for anxiety and depression, especially if you were predisposed or you had other things going on
Or
that would get you, a little more sad than usual or more anxious. It's 2020, it's pandemic, it's racial justice work, the election in the US. What else can be a
you
list?
can pick. You can pick. I have
Yeah.
a lot of clients too that are like, I want to focus on the worldly events, but there's so much happening in my own world. I don't even know where to start, or they feel wrong for focusing on themselves because there's so much happening in the world. And sometimes you have to start with yourself before you can venture out into trying to maintain whatever is happening in the world, because you are just one person. And if you aren't taking care of yourself, what use will you be to other people?
Yeah, can't pour from an empty cup. I like to tell people, so fill your cup up first, then when it's
Yep.
overflowing, then you can give to others. So let's start with coping skills for anxiety.
Yeah.
Maybe, I mean, the holiday season is coming up. Not sure. Are you doing things, big crowds for the holidays? I'm not.
Probably not. Yeah, probably not. We usually do with our family, but we have some older folks, so we're just being mindful of that. So we'll probably keep it very low key.
Okay. So for someone who would be anxious, whether they're engaging with people on the screen through Zoom or any of the other platforms, or if they're going in person, something that they can use for anxiety is having a pre-planned time frame.
Mm.
I'm only available for this 45 minutes or this hour. So you're not there kind of trying to figure out when will this situation end. That's creating some internal angst or anxiety. So that's definitely one that I would say. What would you say for depression?
I would say for depression, I think that goes right alongside of it, right? Like, what's your time limit of how much you can engage with people? Because when you're suffering for depression, you have such a lack of energy. And when you have to get in front of other people and you have to kind of be upbeat and engaged, that takes a lot more energy. So know how long you're going to be there so you don't have to use more of your empty cup that you may not have full.
Yeah, and with that, in terms of anxiety, having some kind of mental mantra, if you may, like a script or a thought that you want to repeat for yourself, whether it's, this moment will pass, I can get through this, like any mental script that you can use to remind yourself to stay a little more grounded
Yeah.
in the interaction that's causing some anxiety.
And I would also say, thinking about depression is who's your support system at the family event if you have one, right? If someone actually knows what's going on with you, they could be that support system. If another person is constantly trying to engage you, they can remind you that you could take a step back and take a break so you don't have to continue using more of the energy that you don't have. So having someone that you can turn to in that moment, um, to kind of be your cheerleader to go take care of yourself.
Yeah, and a lot of people may not have someone that's a support person at the event, so they can have someone on standby.
Mm-hmm.
The anxiety part of it, right? The uncertainty. So planning ahead, who's a support person that you can text or you can call to say, I'm not feeling this well. So you have a distraction from
Right.
what's happening in the moment if there's no one there, or if you live alone and you're on the screen. I mean, you can step aside, text someone for support or call someone and then re-engage in the situation because that offers a distraction.
Yeah, for sure. And just be willing to take that break yourself, right? Like say, just give me a minute. Let me just go step out. If you are in person with a smaller family, let me go step outside and grab some air. Um, really identifying things that could maybe do like a quick like fill up for your cup. Like you're saying, like calling a friend if you go out for air, maybe you could go take a walk. Um, just something that gets you away so that you're not constantly increasing anxiety or depression symptoms while you're engaging with others.
Mhm. I like the idea of the getting some fresh air because with anxiety, something else that you can use too to physically like change the composition of your body is like you can splash some water on your face. You could use natural oils,
Hmm.
something that's scented to just take a whiff, to just smell something to then like change the composition of your body to help you soothe.
Yeah, I find that also like kind of like meditative, right? So if you take that moment and you're really focusing on what the smell is that you're intaking, that can slow your heart rate down, along with drinking some water. This was like the my biggest skill that I used to use in intense in-home therapy sessions is when things were getting really riled up. I could feel my heart rate going up. If I would just grab my water, take a sip, I would be focusing on drinking the water versus the energy that's existing in the room, and that would automatically calm myself down. So it's also a tactic that I use for my clients that are suffering from depression and anxiety. Is like make sure you always have some water right next to you, so you can just take a little sip and focus on that drink, and then allow yourself to slow down and re-engage.
Yeah, and also depending on your age, you do have some agency and some power in the situation to just physically remove yourself from it. Even if you're a young teenager, go to your room, go to another room just to physically change the situation for a while. If you're on the screen, you can take a break from it. If everyone's at dinner or doing games or activities, you can say, popping out for whether it's a bathroom break or something just to physically remove yourself and
Yep.
remember you do have that power.
And I would say, like letting people know ahead of time, like you were saying earlier, just reminder, like, hey guys, I'm only going to be here for such and such time. And then there's, that relieves you of having to stay engaged and be there when you can't handle being there any longer. Um, what about like non-holiday things, right? So I
Hmm.
think those are some basis, but I think we're still going to be going through this season where there's less sunlight. We're not as engaged with socially because like it's cold outside, but also because we're still in the middle of a pandemic. And I think there's also an announcement coming this afternoon about more restrictions that are going to be coming through as we're preparing for the second wave of the coronavirus. So, what about just like maintaining our daily life when anxiety and depression shows up?
So I think it definitely building your safety plan or self-care plan or mental health plan, whatever you want to call it, just having a plan ready. We talked about the symptoms before, recognizing what are your warning signs,
Yeah.
what are your red flags that your mental health may be taking dive downwards. And then beyond that, thinking about, well, for each of those symptoms or cues or signs that you've identified, what's something that you can put in place? Who are your safe people? What are the activities that you can do? For example, journaling, capitalizing on the little bit of sunshine that we have now with going for brief walks that are physically distanced from others, and taking care of your nutrition because that's also
Absolutely.
one of the first things that will be affected appetite changes.
Right. I love that. Like nutrition, health and nutrition is like one of my favorite things. I'm a fitness instructor on the side as well. And so those, like we said before, like one of the first things we tell people is like go to the doctor, get a checkup, right? And so if your nutrition isn't correct, if your physical health isn't correct, then what are some things that, walking, biking, some simple things that you could do. If you have a pet, like a dog, take your dog for a nice long walk. They need walks too, right? So if you're utilizing that time, two birds, one stone kind of thing. Not real birds though, because we don't like to hurt animals. Um, but like making sure your health and wellness is intact. And then also thinking about that self-care plan. Um,
With a self-care plan, something that's critical to being on that plan is who are your support people.
right.
Maybe it's not a family member, maybe it's not a partner, maybe it's a close friend that you have, and you also want to ensure that you're not like dumping on that person. If that, checking in, does that person have the emotional availability to support you in that moment? So that's one thing to figure out. And also, like, always 741 741. If there's no one that in your life, there's always a 24/7 crisis text line for you to reach out to.
And I like to thinking is like your feelings and your mental health on a rating system, right? So 0 to 10. If you're at 0, you don't need much support, you don't need much help, you can make it through your day, you're feeling fine. At 10, you might need the maximum support. So like knowing what coping skill is going to be useful in that moment. So if you're feeling a 5, does a 5 mean you're reaching out for a friend? Or does a 5 mean like you're calling, that 741 number? Just knowing what you need in that moment and what feels good to you would be helpful. And if you don't know what your triggers are, or you don't know what feels good to your triggers, then maybe that's the time to reach out to a therapist and really do some deep diving work around like, okay, this is what I need. Because I think most times when we're going through anxiety or depression, we're not really sure what we need in that moment. So maybe if somebody can help us break it down, we could kind of navigate, and then we can really utilize those coping skills as those triggers occur.
Yeah. So what do we have so far? We have the distraction option. We
Mm-hmm.
have physically removing yourself or changing the composition of your body, more like sensory based things. We have mental, like mental approaches, like a mantra. I can get through this will pass. And then what else did we have, Lavonda, if we're
Uh,
reviewing?
Did we say taking a walk, phoning a friend, drinking some water, and just having a structured plan
Yeah,
altogether for when things may come up for you.
yeah. Which reminds me, I need to follow up to see what my plan looks like as the days are shorter, nights are longer.
It always feels like it's night, like bedtime, and I'm like, oh,
I know.
I still gotta work. So you think that's a good list to start out with as we head into this winter holiday season?
I think so. I think that's good enough for now, because as always, people would have to then personalize them to their situation. We're just giving list of things that have been known to be helpful for different people with anxiety and depression.
Absolutely. And I'll go ahead and make sure we put a link. There's 31 ways or 31 things that you can do when you're suffering for depression. I often find, though, that list could also be used for anxiety. So it'll be in the link, be linked at the bottom. So make sure you guys check that out. And once again, if you need anything for Nicola and myself, we could be reached at melanated truth LLC at gmail.com.
One day we'll get it right, Lavonda.
One day. And of course, our social media links will pop up here at the end of the video. So don't hesitate to reach out, and we hope to see you guys soon.